So, China is thinking big. I mean, really big. Today, we're going to unpack its grand strategy by looking at three massive ideas that are seriously reshaping our world: the dream, the engine, and the road. To say China is thinking big might actually be an understatement. We're talking about national projects on a scale that's genuinely hard to wrap your head around, all designed to fundamentally change its place in the world. And right at the heart of all this ambition are three key phrases you've probably heard thrown around: the Chinese dream, the dual circulation strategy, and the Belt and Road Initiative. Each one of these is like a pillar holding up a much, much larger structure. But what's the deal with them, really? Are these just catchy political slogans, or are they all deeply connected parts of a single, cohesive master plan? Well, that's the big question we're going to tackle right now. All right, let's start with a destination, the ultimate goal that's driving everything else. And that is the Chinese dream. So what is it? Well, the term was made famous by President Xi Jinping, and it's fundamentally about one thing: the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. You can think of it as a massive effort to reclaim what's seen as a rightful place on the world stage. It's part callback to historical glory and part powerful push into the future. And listen, this isn't just some vague, fuzzy idea. It's a project with a very clear, hard and fast timeline, built around two major deadlines called the two centenaries. The first goal was to become a moderately well-off society by 2021, which was really about getting rid of absolute poverty. The second, and much bigger goal, is to be a fully developed nation by 2049, which means being on par with the world's top economies in tech, military strength, the whole shebang. Now, to really get this, it helps to compare it to something we're all familiar with: the American dream. The American dream is deeply individualistic, right? It's all about personal success, private gain. The Chinese dream, on the other hand, is explicitly collective. It's all about national glory and revival, achieved through a massive, unified group effort. Okay, so if the dream is the destination, how does China plan to actually get there? Well, that brings us to the economic engine built to power this whole journey, a strategy called dual circulation. Dual circulation. I know, it sounds a little complex, but the idea at its core is actually pretty simple: self-reliance. It's a huge economic master plan to make China's economy tougher and more independent by beefing up its own internal market, while at the same time strategically changing how it deals with the rest of the world. So it breaks down into two parts, or two circulations. First, you have the internal circulation. This means looking inward, unleashing the incredible buying power of 1.4 billion people. And this is the really critical part: mastering the technologies that China currently has to import. Then there's the external circulation. That's about looking outward, but doing it on China's own terms, locking down new markets and reshaping global supply chains. And let's be absolutely clear. The number one driver here is to cut China's dependence on the outside world, especially for high-end technology. This is a major strategic pivot toward becoming self-sufficient. Now, you might be thinking, hey, this sounds kind of familiar, like that rebalancing strategy China talked about after the 2008 financial crisis. But there is a huge difference. Rebalancing was about reducing dependence on exports because people around the world just weren't buying as much. Dual circulation, on the other hand, is a response to more recent geopolitical pressures, and it's all about reducing dependence on imports. It's a much more assertive, inward-looking game plan. So we've got this powerful internal engine. How does it connect to the outside world? Well, that brings us to the global highway designed to carry its influence: the Belt and Road Initiative. The Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI, isn't some separate, random project. It is the main vehicle for that external circulation we were just talking about. It's how China is literally building the physical and digital infrastructure and the relationships it needs to secure customers in new markets all over the globe. The engine and the road are designed to work hand in glove. And just to give you a sense of the sheer scale here, more than 150 countries have signed on to this in some way. That's over 3/4 of the world's nations. We are not talking about a regional project. This thing is truly global. When people hear Belt and Road, they usually think of giant infrastructure projects: ports, railways, highways. And yeah, that's a huge piece of it, but it's so much more. It also includes a digital Silk Road to expand internet and data networks, the creation of entirely new trade corridors, and it's also a way for China to secure long-term access to the natural resources it needs to keep that engine running. Of course, an initiative this massive has plenty of supporters and plenty of critics. For a more balanced view, here's a take from Yanis Varoufakis, who used to be the finance minister of Greece, a pretty key partner in the BRI. He said the Chinese approach mixed their own self-interest with a patient negotiating style to reach what he felt were mutually beneficial deals. Okay, so we've got the dream, the engine, and the road. All these massive pieces are in motion, which of course brings us to the biggest question of all. What does this grand strategy actually mean for the rest of us? Well, the outcome could feel like a double whammy for many of the world's advanced economies. So on one hand, you have less Chinese demand. As China builds its own high-tech industries, it's going to buy fewer advanced goods from places like Germany or Japan. On the other hand, you'll see more Chinese competition. China isn't just replacing imports, it's planning to export its own advanced goods, competing directly with those same German cars and Japanese electronics in all those new markets across Asia, Africa, and Latin America. And that leads us to our final question. The Chinese dream is very explicitly about national rejuvenation for China. But as this dream is chased with such incredible scale and strategic focus, it leaves us with a really critical thought. How will one nation's dream ultimately end up reshaping the dreams and the realities of every other nation on the planet?